Okay, in this video I'm going to go over a few tips and tricks and do's and don'ts uh, for the uh, for the Point Gadget plugin. Um, Let me go ahead and just activate the plugin here, and here, and let me shoot a point. Okay. So I'll use the inspector, and you'll see that it's point ID number 1. The first don't that you want to be aware of is you might be wanting to create an array of these point markers, these registered point markers. And if you do, since they are just instances of the same definition, let me go ahead and just do something like that. You're more than welcome to actually to create arrays with SketchUp's arraying features, but be aware that since you are duplicating the same instance of that, you will also be duplicating the attributes that are assigned to it. So you'll see here that says point ID 1. This says point ID 1 as well. In fact, they all do. Okay, they do have different points associated with them. I do capture that, but you are duplicating the point ID. If you're not going to be bringing this out to another software or a piece of hardware in the export, I guess it doesn't really matter. You're more than welcome to use the array tools in SketchUp. Just want you to be aware that you will be duplicating these. Okay. One way to avoid the duplication of the point ID is by using the unregistered point markers. So I'll go into the component browser here, select the In Model menu, and then here's the marker right here. So again, since this hasn't been registered with the plugin, you can create as many of these as you like. Okay, and then afterwards, go ahead and make a selection and update. Okay, now you will be assured that these will have separate point IDs, unlike the ones that were arrayed out earlier. Okay. One way to correct this, let's say you've gone through the whole process, you have your points set, and then you realize you do have duplicates. Okay. One thing you can do is obviously just export that out with the export tool into a CSV, bring that into a Excel spreadsheet or a text editor, and then manually modify those. One thing to be aware of for the Mac users out there, that if you are going to resave the CSV that's been edited and then bring the points back into SketchUp, that you want to make sure that you save it out as a Windows or a DOS, under a Windows and a DOS setting. For whatever reason, when you save it out as a Mac, it won't import in. Okay, so just to show you what that looks like, let's go ahead and just export out these set of points. Okay, I'll go ahead and say data set. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and open up the data set here. It's going to open up by default in my spreadsheet editor. Here are my duplicates, as you can see here. Perhaps I just want to rename them all. So I'll just do something like this. Oops, let's go try that again. There we go. They've been relabeled. Okay. Now I'm going to save this back out as a CSV. And again, if you're on a Mac, it may come across as a Mac format. You want to make sure that you're under the Windows environment. Okay. And then resave. Okay. And you'll notice here that, move this aside, if I do an import, okay, and select that They all show up in the exact same location, but now they all have individual IDs. Okay. Okay, the next tip or trick you should be aware of, and this is actually more of a warning, is that it has to do with the Create Line Work tool. First, what I'm going to do here is just shoot a few points. And as I shoot them, obviously they're creating an ID in ascending order. Okay. Again, those IDs are one of the attributes that the Create Line Work tool uses to actually stitch the markers together in order. So I'll just go ahead and select one, and there's my line work. Okay. The warning that I have is be aware that if you are going to be creating the point markers with the unregistered markers first, so let's go ahead and just array these out. Okay. And then let me go ahead and register them with the plugin. The registration process basically uses the selection set in the order in which these have been selected. SketchUp itself, when you're doing a window selection, doesn't necessarily select them all in the order that you might want them to. So let's take a look here at how it was created. Each one was registered. So here's point 14, 13, 12, and 11. Actually, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. You can't guarantee that that the IDs will be created in the order in which they visually are arrayed. So be aware that, let's try this again and see if I can't make it bust itself. Let's go out here 2 feet and go 3x and do a selection, update. Let's see here how this is. 18. Okay, so there you go. 18, 17, 15, 16. So these are not going to be stitched in order. Okay, these 4 here. So you will want to be aware of how you're arraying things and the order in which they're being marked. And again, just be aware of that, because the stitching or the Create Line Work tool is going to be using the ascending order of the IDs. Okay? So the final tip or trick that I have for you is I spent a lot of time trying to figure out, what does this point marker look like? Okay, what should it look like? And if you don't like the way it looks, you're free to edit it all you want and use them as point markers for visualization purposes. All I would have to warn you is don't swap it out with just another component. There's a lot of plugins out there, and there's actually a feature in SketchUp that allows you to swap out and reload plugins. I should say reload components. You don't want to do that because there's attribution actually set onto these markers. Instead, what I would advise you to do is just go ahead and edit within the component itself. So say, let's say I'm going to shoot a few points here, a few more points. Okay, and let's say I want to make this one unique. Okay, and I want to perhaps have different styles of point markers, so I can see which ones are on slabs or on terrain or whatever, for better visualization purposes. So let's say I want to make this one unique, which you're more than welcome to do. Okay, and then come in here, double click to edit it, and perhaps I want something like, this is my marker. Get rid of this. Okay, so now I have 2 types of point markers in there. If you use the shoot tool, it's going to continually to pull this type of marker in, but you're more than welcome to come in here and use these other ones. Okay, all you want, and then make sure again to make the selection and update. And these will still react like normal point markers. Okay. And then just note that it's that point, construction point right there, dead center, that is going to be the actual point these markers are referencing. All right. Thanks so much.